Man, one last vid before I get on the road to head to the Shenandoah River and smack bass. Got the boat all motherfucking ready. We getting ready to go. But look, man, it's almost gotten to the point when I hear somebody say they street fought that it makes me cringe. And that's coming from somebody who street fought. The problem is a lot of these motherfuckers that say they've been in street fights or been in fights, they weren't real fights, okay? A lot of times it would be yap, 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 yap. The other person don't even really know they're in a fight. You hit them and it's over. Or you hit some fucking drunk who really don't even know how to fight. Or you beat up your neighbor who don't even know how to fight. And a lot of times the fight lasts 15 seconds and it's over, right? So when I say street fighting, just know that's not the type of street fighting I'm talking about. I'm more so talking about two motherfuckers locked in a cell. The guard ain't coming around for 2 hours. And you trying to make sure the other guy don't walk out of there. That's the kind of fight I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fight that I got stabbed in my throat with it. Outside a club, fighting nonstop. Nobody was going to break that shit up. And it got so out of hand, dude stuck me, right? A lot of times when people talk, they see me talk about boxing, they know I own a boxing gym. I did USA boxing when I was a kid, all of that shit. They think and assume that I would be lost if I seen any other aspect of fighting. And sorry, look, my first 16 fights in the street beef chart. Hey, we're loading up in just 1 second, baby. My first 16 fights in the street beef chart was full MMA. There was grappling allowed. I actually won 2 of my fights by submission, which one was a standing guillotine. The other was a guillotine on the ground. So, wasn't anything spectacular, but I had to defend takedowns and all that. But, 3 or 4 different fights I was in lockup. There's one in particular, this white dude named Tim Herb. I always remember because his name's Herb, strong motherfucker. We fought in the cell. And all he wanted to do was grab. He was trying to get me down. And my back was the cell. A cell's little. So he was trying everything he could. My back was against the wall and I'm tussling with him and I'm trying to control his wrists. And he kept shooting down, trying to snatch my legs out. And I must say I defended well. And I put some good shots on him. And, nobody really won. It was more of a stalemate. But it was a good fight. And, had the other cellies not been yelling, yeah, 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 the guards probably would have never known and we'd have fought for an hour. But, folks, I kind of compare it to Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford grappled with a member of Khabib's camp. Tapped him out. I don't know what it is. Like, folks think a boxer is going to get exposed to some kind of martial arts and just be shocked. Just have oh my God, what is that? There may be some that will. Just like there may be some MMA fighters that aren't ready for high level boxing. And some MMA fighters that ain't ready for the type of power. I always go back to Ngannou and Joshua. Ngannou was known as the big bad puncher. And I told people, I said, he hits hard in MMA gloves. But these motherfucking heavyweight boxers is a different level of hard punching. And I hated that Tyson Fury was his first fight because Tyson Fury's never been a big puncher. Plus, he's been known to come in out of shape. But I knew when he fought Joshua what it was going to be. And the point is, these guys get into boxing because their hands are lethal. Because they've learned they don't need much else, But that don't mean they're babes in the woods. A lot of boxers were athletes. They were athletes in school. You go back to Roy Jones Jr., he played basketball, football, he wrestled. He did all that shit. And that's the story with a lot of boxers. But somewhere along the line, I'm going to say this, and I don't want to get too deep into this, because this subject is my biggest pet peeve in fighting. Just yesterday, I'm on Instagram and some douchebag, man, we know what would happen. Oh, no, fuck Instagram. The dude I unfriended yesterday commented on one of my posts, and this dude's one of those guys, every time I seen his name, I knew he was arguing about something. Sure enough, he comes on, this was my post about George Foreman, and the dude saying, I'll leg kick him. And he's like, well, I disagree, blah, blah, blah. Look, man, ultimately, these guys bring up, he said, well, we know every time a boxer's went to MMA, they've got, what? Where did you hear that? Because actually, it's the opposite. There's actually about 12 high-level boxers that I can name that went over to MMA, and almost every single one of them won at least a match or two. Now, if it was like some of y'all say it is, they would have never won a single match. Not one. And Ray Mercer is a great example. He started in his 40s and went and fought a UFC champ. He should have been dog meat. UFC champ was 10 years younger than him. But then you take Francois Botha going and fighting fucking Remy Bojanski. Go watch. He had never trained kickboxing, any of that shit. He fought straight boxing. He threw a couple weak kicks. And he won. It's crazy, man. People what irritates me is it's starting to get, in the 70s and 80s, people had this mythical belief about Eastern, like karate, kung fu. They thought there was some old guy up in the mountains that would come down and kick flames out of you. Then we found out that was overblown. But now it's starting to get that with like that with MMA, where these dudes are starting to believe that anybody that trains MMA, anybody that don't train it is just dog meat. And there's other arts. And furthermore, it's like Bruce Lee said, and I'm not even a Bruce Lee fan, but he said, I fear not the guy who practices 1,000 punches or some shit. Fear the guy who practices one punch 1,000 times. It kind of goes to the jack of all trades, master of none theory. I'll take a guy who perfects one or two areas, really perfects them, as opposed to a guy who dabbles, but doesn't really excel at any of them. Okay? Listen, expand your horizons. Stop thinking Randy Couture versus James Toney is the only time that a boxer went to... That's the only time a boxer went to the UFC. Psych. Holly Holmes went to the UFC. There's actually... Chris Lytle was a pretty good fucking boxer when he ended up going to MMA. There's a few that have went. So, again, and as far as high-level MMA, many have went. Expand your horizons. See y'all soon.